Hello and welcome to the Fighting Spirit Podcast. As always, I'm Jason and I'm here to bring you the retrospective on UFC Fight Night Overeem versus Rozenstruik taking place in Washington, D.C. It was kind of a little bit of a frustrating card for me. We'll get into the contest I felt were the most frustrating. A lot of it really just comes down to the draws on the night, but we will get into those. Let's get into it. Here's the show. Alright, first off, I just want to apologize. My voice sounds a little rough. I've been battling a cold since Friday. Hopefully it's not too bad on your end, but let's speak to the main event. So, Jairzo Rozenstruik versus Alistair Overeem. Oh, you know what? Let's actually go over the overall results real quick here before we do that. We went 7-3-2 on the night. So that's 7 wins, 3 losses, and then 2 draws, which are very unusual. And we'll get to those outcomes soon. But let's get back to that main event. So Jairzo Rozenstruik takes on Alistair Overeem. And on one metric, I did have Overeem winning, and he was, by all rights, set to win the fight. He was knocked out at 4 minutes, 56 seconds into the last final round, round 5. And, I thought that Overeem did look better in the fight. I believe by all accounts he was actually winning. He had, been winning on the judges' scorecards 3 rounds to 1, 4 rounds to 0, and it was basically going to be his fight given a few more seconds. He really exploited some parts of Rozenstruik's game that I think none of us had really seen yet because he'd been knocking guys out so early on. Nobody got to see how he was on the ground. Nobody got to see how he was with rangy strikers that weren't willing to throw down with him. And I thought that Alistair Overeem's technical kickboxing and ability to keep him at range was very effective. His takedown game was effective. His grappling was effective. The only problem is Overeem or Ubereem is no more, and he wasn't able to really put it on Rozenstruik like he would have been able to do in the past. Rozenstruik can just take a killer shot. He got kicked in the liver. He got clean shots on the jaw, and the guy just kept coming. And that speaks a lot to where he is in his career. Overeem has like 90 fights, if you count, I believe, his kickboxing fights. And then Rozenstruik, I don't know if he came out of kickboxing, but he was 9-0 coming in and now 10-0 following this contest. So I think he just had a really, really young chin, fresh chin, and he obviously has that, young man power behind his shot, and that's why he was able to shut the door. For Overeem, his experience was there, his ability to win was there. He just did not get it done. I did ultimately call Rozenstruik with this one, so I am going to call it a W on the night. He probably shouldn't have won, though. I think Overeem was the better fighter ultimately overall. Look at the numbers here, though. Rozenstruik did actually outstrike Overeem, but I thought Overeem's shots up until Rozenstruik put him down were all cleaner. He definitely was doing, I don't know if you'd call it damage per se, because Rozenstruik wasn't wobbled at all, but I do think that Overeem is nailing the cleaner shots, and he looked like the better fighter, but ultimately that's not how it went down, and let's just talk about that just a little bit. So that left hand comes in, kind of jabs him back on the cage, and that just crazy winging right hand hits him right under the orbital, I guess you could say, right towards, the I'm not sure, the left part of his mouth, and it just cleaned his clock. It split his lip, gave him at least a 3-inch gash from his lip up to his orbital, and split him like nothing I've ever really seen before, to be perfectly honest. There's obviously the Robbie Lawler versus Rory McDonald fight that has that famous split lip, and I have to say this one looked way worse. These guys are heavyweights, not welters, and they hit harder, and I've never seen anything like that before. Rozenstruik has the power. It's just his call-out will make it interesting to see where his chin and his power lie, because his call-out was against the Predator Francis Ngannou, and when you're going up against the Predator Francis Ngannou, you have to bring your A game. The only guy we've seen really do anything to him is Stipe, and Stipe's chin was still there. This was prior to him getting knocked out by DC. He was eating shots, and he was able to grind, Ngannou down and get a victory. Rozenstruik's game clearly is not going to be that. He's going to be swinging and banging, and it'll be interesting to see if Rozenstruik's chin is there, because I think he's going to have to eat one. I think that the Predator's, Ngannou's boxing and striking ability is superior to Rozenstruik with equal or even greater power. So it's going to be a deadly, deadly contest coming up when that one takes place. But somebody who gets a knockout win like that and calls out Ngannou, I think the UFC, Sean Shelby, they're going to make that fight. There's no other way around it. A few guys are going to call out Ngannou. And so if you got a guy you can book with him that really wants it, boom, give it to him. I think Biggie Boy is the fight to make since he wants it. So, anyways, we'll see how that one plays out, but we did end up getting the main event correct. I just was really worried about it going into the final moments. In the next contest, we had Mariana Rodriguez tying Cynthia Calvillo, tying or coming to a draw. And so this is something we very rarely see. I actually wasn't as upset about this one as I was the Stamen Yudong fight. But Mariana Rodriguez and Calvillo, it was looking like two solid 10-9 rounds. I thought that Mariana looked really good on the feet. She was very, very much boxing up Calvillo. She had some great Muay Thai technique. She was getting really good clinch work, really good knees in. And she just looked fantastic. I thought she was easily going to win. But the problem is that come round 3, Calvillo gets it very, very early to the ground and just puts the bully beatdown on her as soon as possible. She ended up outstriking Rodriguez due to this, and she was just so good on the ground, and she basically managed to convince the judges you had a 10-8 round, which was probably one of the fairest draws I think I've ever seen in recent memory. Some draws are tough, but I think this one might have actually been legit. And this was a fight I actually had put money on. I thought Rodriguez had it, and going into the third, I wasn't too concerned. But then it went to a draw, and it just kind of sucks a little bit to have it go that way. And I think part of that comes down to it being Washington, D.C. I feel like if this fight was in Vegas, I think Vegas values gambling. It's bad for business when you have draws. You need some guys to win, some guys to lose, and when nobody wins, nobody really wants to bet, nobody really wants to take a deep dive, and so I think it's bad for business, and I think Washington, D.C. just doesn't have that kind of culture, that kind of business behind it, so they were more willing to give out draws here than really we've seen anybody else willing to. I can't remember the last time we had 2 draws on a single card. The last draw, and I thought it was going to be, last draw I'd see for a long time, was the Shogun versus the Bear Jew card. Was it Paul Craig? And so I didn't expect to see another one here so soon. But in Washington, they don't have a lot of events there. I can't imagine that the judges that are doing, the MMA judging are, I'm going to use the word competent, but I really, it's really more experience. They just don't have the experience. They don't have the culture of gambling, and so I understand why they went for the draw here. And actually, I think it was fair. This is probably the one true draw that they should have had on the evening. And so, as Calvillo, do that top game and that heavy pressure, ends up picking up or saving herself and taking an L, and kind of robbing a victory away from Mariana at the end. And, it was good. Even though at the end, though, Mariana did get back to her feet, where I thought maybe she, was kind of going to shut down that 10-8 opportunity because she did get back up. But they stuck to the 10-8 nature of things, and Calvillo ended up saving herself a loss. So, interesting contest in that one. Let's move on to the next one. Also, I didn't count that one as part of the metric. I put it as a draw, so just take that piece of information. Next one, Ben Rothwell versus Stefan Struve. This was definitely the contest that went dick kick of the night, I believe. So Ben Rothwell, and I think this is really the story of the fight. Ben Rothwell lands 2 heavy cock shots on Stefan Struve in brutal fashion. Stefan Struve is so tall. I'd say Ben Rothwell is like your average big guy. What's he like? 6'3", 250 pounds, right? He's 6'4". He's built at 265. So I'm pretty close. Just guessing off the cuff there. But Struve is 7 feet tall. I mean, this is abnormally large in almost any sport except for basketball, right? And, he was throwing what should have been perfectly, well-timed body kicks, and he's just hitting them a little low because, realistically, you almost got to throw like a quasi-head kick to hit this guy in the leg. Nobody really aims for the top of the shoulder, or sternum when they're throwing side kicks. And so, through muscle memory, you're just going to be a little bit lower. And I think that was part of the problem for Rothwell, was just that muscle memory. So I can't remember which round it was. It was I think it was the first and the second. We both had the kicks. So Struve was down bad. He was writhing in pain, rolling on his back. He refused to get up. And, he ended up getting docked a point, Rothwell did, due to these kicks. But Stefan Struve looked destroyed. And one interesting thing I found on I think Twitter was that I guess a few weeks back, Struve was trying out a new cup from a new cup company. You can look up his post. I don't know if he's since deleted it, but he was promoting this new cup he was going to wear in his contest against Rothwell, and obviously that cup doesn't work. Wear a steel tie, a Muay Thai cup. That's probably the go-to. Obviously it's not going to feel pleasant when you kick that hard by a heavyweight, but the steel is definitely going to protect the boys better than whatever the hell he was wearing, because I've never seen a guy take a nut shot like that and go down so bad. I mean, it's uncomfortable. I've never been kicked in an MMA event, but he should have worn a better cup, man. I understand you were taking the money, you're trying to promote it. I understand all that, but geez, protect the family jewels. Wear a steel cup. Do what you got to do. So. Anyways, just kind of a interesting way that one ended up playing out, because after the second dick kick, Bren Rothwell was like, shit, they took a point from me. I got to get back in here and knock this mother effer out. And he went out there and put it on him and won via TKO with only 3 seconds left in the second round. So, Rothwell really, really put it on, put his foot in the gas. And nothing against Struve, but he had to shut the door or he was going to lose this fight, or it was going to become another draw affair. I definitely could have seen that potentially playing out. So anyways, Ben Rothwell picks up the win there, and that's actually a loss on the record. But those nut shots, I'm sure, really screwed with things. It changed the game plan for Rothwell. I'm not even sure Struve wanted to be there. Miragliotta had to basically talk him back in. He was asking how much time was left. Miragliotta said, you're probably winning, plus I'm taking a point. He was acting like Horman, trying to encourage his guy to go back out there. And I'm sure Miragliotta does it all the time. It struck me that, this is pretty commonplace for him, but I'm not sure you're supposed to do that. I think you're supposed to be more of a neutral body in that situation. But, he was talking to the guy and he incentivized him to come back in because he was winning, but things just did not work out very well for him. And Rothwell picks up the victory, and we pick up an L on that one. All right, moving on to the next contest. We had Aspen Ladd defeat Yana Kutinskaya. This was a win for us. We did call Aspen Ladd, and she just looked brutal. I think it was in the first round. She was just on Kutinskaya's back, or, just kind of her side, and just dropping just nasty, primal ground and pound on Kutinskaya, trying to punch her way to victory. She finally ended up getting it done in the third round, even though Yana is big and she fought Cyborg at 145. Aspen Ladd has the heart of a lion, and it's tough to extinguish that fire when you have that kind of intensity. So Yana just was not prepared for the intensity I think that Ladd had, and her technique was not enough to overcome that. So great win out to Ladd. Next, we have to move on to the robbery of the night. So Cody Stamann picked up a draw in a fight that he clearly won. So Stamann was kneed as a down opponent, causing Song to lose a point. And let's not even take that into consideration. Let's look at the numbers here. 41 to 31 strikes in Cody's favor. 5 takedowns to 0, Cody's favor. 6 passes on the ground, 0 for Yudong. No submission attempts. Okay, fair enough. So where in there does Yudong even win without a point deduction? Did he look flashier? Did he look explosive? Sure, why not? Was the third round, could Yudong even get up? Did he have anything in the third round? Did he have any control? I'm pretty sure it was like 4 minutes and like 20 seconds worth of control in the third round. Now, I'm not saying Stamann did a lot with it, but when you shut a guy down, I think that's a 10-9. And then when you take a point away from a guy, it pretty much makes it 10-9 again, generally. And so I don't know how Stamann loses this. He wins on numbers. He should win because of the point takeaway. And this is one of the worst calls I think I've ever seen in MMA. I had money on Stamann. He was an underdog. He was a good pick. I think he won the fight. It's ridiculous that he didn't pick up a win here. I understand that, it's Washington, D.C. Maybe these guys don't have as much experience in MMA, but this was a robbery if I've ever seen one. I don't know how you pick Yadong in this one, unless just as a pure conspiracy, unless there's some leverage to have Yadong win because the UFC is trying to make a push in China, and having a Chinese star looks good for the sport over there and helps you sell more tickets when they go back to China in Shanghai or Beijing, wherever they go. Maybe that's the case. Maybe that's the conspiracy side of me. And, it's something my wife said. I actually didn't think of it myself, be perfectly honest. But it certainly makes sense. The guy gets to remain undefeated. And so when he goes over there and he has a Chinese contest, probably in his next fight, when the UFC goes over to cash in, make some money, they'll be able to sell an undefeated fighter. And I don't think that was fair. I think that Yadong lost, Stamen won, and Yadong should come back better. He should mentally keep this as a loss because he cannot be taken down like that, and he needs to get better takedown defense. Is he a comprehensive technical striker on the feet? Absolutely. He made Stamen look bad, but Stamen was able to take him down basically at will and hold him down in the third round. So, Yadong needs to collect that as a mental loss, and Stamen, it's a little bit of a boring style in some ways to be so outclassed on the feet that you gotta, grind to get to the ground, and then, not really do much with it once you get it there. But you gotta, give it to Stamen. He got the win, and that's the one I was just really upset about. It was just an absolute robbery, and if you disagree with that, you're wrong. I'm sorry. All right, moving on to the next one. Rob Font defeats Ricky Simone. Rob Font picks up Fight of the Night money. We had Simone in this one. He just, his wrestling was there to some extent. He did score 6 takedowns, but he didn't do anything with him, unlike Stamen, who did actually manage to keep some good control. But he was almost outstruck 2-1, and Rob Font just looked really good on the feet. He had really great ring control. He was actually hurting Simone a lot, and a lot of those takedowns were panic wrestling that, Font was able to scramble and get back up to his feet very easily. Font fought a good fight, and I thought that he won this contest. Especially since he outstruck him like he did. You can't give that much credit to takedowns. It's one thing when you score takedowns and over, and then you're striking more like we did in the Stamen fight. But when you're scoring takedowns but not really getting it done on the feet, it's kind of a panic wrestle. And so I understand why he didn't, they didn't give any kind of nod to Simone, even as a split decision. But they picked up Rob Font here. I thought the takedowns were going to be more effective. I thought his wrestling was going to be more effective. Was not the case, and Rob Font picks up a great win. So I was happy to see him win personally, but we didn't get that one wrong, and just kind of is what it is. All right, in the next one, we had Tim Means and Thiago Alves. So this one ended up, closing out pretty early. I didn't actually see this one. I only came in for the Rob Font fight, so we'll go over these ones, a little bit quicker. So Tim Means, the Dirty Bird does pick up a win. He gets him in a guillotine choke early on in the first round, about midway through 2 minutes, 38 seconds. And Tim Means is looking really good at welterweight on his return. And, his return to the, welterweight division in general. He had a little bit of a layoff. And he is back now, and I think he made a good point with himself against Thiago Alves, the Pitbull. But the word on the street is that the Pitbull is going to be leaving the UFC. He was in his last fight of his contract, and supposedly he's not yet renewed. So he might be going over to Bellator or a different organization. And, he didn't go out on a win here. So we'll see how things play out for him and where he decides to go. But I do like the Pitbull, Thiago Alves. He's a very fun fighter to watch. He's just a little stiff sometimes, and Tim Means did manage to catch him. In the next contest, we had Billy Quartanello defeat Jacob Kilburn. This was a really one-sided affair. 74 strikes to 3. Obviously, the 1 takedown, 5 submission attempts, 9 passes on the ground. Billy looks like a really, really good, well-rounded fighter. We actually called him as the winner in this debuting contest. I can't remember who he was originally supposed to fight, but this was a change of opponent. I just can't remember who it was now. I talked about it on the podcast, but if you go back and look at it, originally I wasn't picking Billy, but with the Jacob fight, we ended up going with Billy, and he picked up a great win here. Submission via triangle choke in the second round. Great victory by him. Hope to see more out of him. in future contests. Then we had Bryce Mitchell scoring the second ever twister in the UFC late into the first round. Not much done on the feet here. Bryce basically gets into the mat. He's a guy with 12 submissions instead of 11, no knockouts. The dude loves to get it done on the ground. He's a submission expert, I think we can say, for the featherweight division. And he's looking phenomenal. He gets Matt Sales, who's a good fighter. Let's not beat around the bush. He's a better striker, I think, than Mitchell, but couldn't manage to keep it standing. And he learned that he is not at comfort if it's on the mat. And Bryce Mitchell ends up picking up the complicated twister. So now the second one in the UFC, besides Korean Zombie's win a few years back. So pretty interesting one. I wish I had seen it live, but I have seen some highlights. And it was great. Sales just didn't seem as confident on the ground as I kind of thought maybe he would have, but that's what happens when you have a high-level grappler. It's tough to deal. In the next contest, we had Joe Solaki defeat Matt Wyman, and I think Matt Wyman's done here. I'd kind of talked about how he might be fighting for a paycheck, and I kind of felt bad about what I said, just because, it takes a lot of work and effort to go into a fight, and then to say you're just collecting a paycheck is kind of shitty on my behalf, because, I'm just recording a podcast here. But that's what I think, honestly, was the case here. Matt Wyman really did nothing at all. He threw 10 strikes over the 3 5-minute rounds, and Joe Solaki scored 4 takedowns. He had 56 strikes. I don't know what Wyman's doing there. He's not the Wyman of old, and he should probably hang it up. I imagine he signed a 3-fight deal, though. He'll probably close it out, take his cash, and go home. But, I'm probably would not, and I didn't bet on Wyman personally. I didn't think he was going to win, but he's got a record. He's got stats that make him seem better than he is. Maybe he's a pre-USADA kind of guy. He just can't hang right now. So Wyman picks up a loss, and not looking forward to watching him fight again. Virna Jandiroba defeats Mallory Martin. This was another decent fight. I saw a few highlights here. Submission rear naked choke. Virna basically takes her back. This whole fight was almost fought on the ground, and Virna picks up again that rear naked choke in the second round, and it makes it an interesting grappling contest. Maybe boring for your average MMA fan, but really fun to watch for me. At least on the highlights that I saw. So I didn't watch the whole fight for what it's worth. But great win by Virna Jandiroba, and we did pick up a W there. And the last one, we also got another W as well. Mahmoud Murdiev defeats Trevor Smith. I think this one was predicted pretty heavily for Murdiev. He actually picked up performance of the night along with Bryce Mitchell and Rob Font with fight of the night to close things out, and we were able to make that call as well. So like I said, we went 7-3-2 on the evening. I think one of those draws really should have went into our win column. So I think we really went 8-3 to be perfectly 8-3-1 to be perfectly honest. And in fact, even the Mariano Rodriguez fight is up for question, to be perfectly honest. And so it could have been 9-3. But the end result was pretty good. I just managed to not take any fight that ended my way. So I took 3 of them. I took the Mariano Rodriguez fight, I took the Cody Stamann fight, and I took the Rob Font Ricky Simone card, and I took Simone in that one, and obviously draws don't pay when you pick wins, and so those just did not play out. They did not work out at all. I was a little upset. I even took Andy Ruiz, and I just put $5 on Ruiz. I was like, he's an underdog. He knocked out Joshua. He's got another chance, I'm sure. And then I realized how fat he was going into it. I was like, oh, shit, this guy didn't train a lick. The guy's almost 300 pounds. He's looking like Butterbean out there. And Joshua ends up picking his titles back up, and kind of sets things up again to have a epic fight with the winner of Wilder versus Fury 2, and I'm sure they'll do something cool for that. But yeah, not the worst contest for us. I'm not too really upset about it. I would have to say my most upset moment was really during the draw with Cody Stamann. I was shocked. I mean, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I'm going to win this fight. And, I'm a bit pretty small. It was a lot of money here. We're talking tens of dollars. And I was like, all right, cool. I'm getting like a good little payday here. Almost pays for like all the fights I bet on. Great, cool. Stamann wins. Awesome. And then it's like, oh, shit. This dude drawn? You gotta be kidding me. And then after the Simone loss, like back to back, I was like, I'm screwed. And then another draw. I was like, couldn't win, couldn't catch a break last night. He did well overall with the picks. And, I do this on occasion. I really kind of like dig my heels in on just a couple fights that I think are going to win. And I can't can't stress it enough, and I don't follow my own wisdom half the time. Spread the risk around, bet small in multiple fights, I thought that the two underdogs that I thought were going to win were going to do well, and I was going to take care of things. It just didn't play out that well. But spread your risk, folks. Don't do what I did. Take more than 3 fights. If you got to go smaller money, on each individual fight, do that. Don't get too crazy with it. But, yeah, it just did not work out for us with the calls, due to those draws, really. Those draws ended up being, split decisions instead, and I think we ended up doing okay instead. We end up, coming out underneath things, and, we'll look forward to the pay-per-view next week. So I've started doing those. I'm not going to give anything away on this show here. You'll have to wait till Monday or Tuesday to get the next one. But I am really looking forward to it. There's some amazing contests, and really, I think it comes down to those 3 title fights: Kamaru Usman versus Colby Covington, Max Holloway, Alexander Volkanovski, Amanda Nunes, and Jermaine Durandamy to round things out for title bouts. But there's also some, not to be slept on fights down there as well. Marlon Moraes, Jose Aldo, great contest at bantamweight, Jose's debut. Peter Yan, Uriah Faber. Peter Yan's looking unstoppable right now, and Faber shut down the hype train that was Simone. So, an interesting contest there. Matt Brown's coming back. He's always a fan favorite. So, I took on Ben Saunders. Not like, kind of blow your hair back event, but, something to, I think, be a little excited for. Kai Kara-France, Brandon Moreno. Great matchup at flyweight. Kai Kara-France is a great fighter in the, I want to call it boring, but, the flyweight division just is not on fire. Cejudo holds both belts. He's injured. Benavidez deserves his title shot. It's just stalled out is probably a good way to put it. So, Kai Kara-France making a statement, but what's going to happen there? I don't know. Maybe have Benavidez fight him, have Cejudo relinquish the belt, assuming Kai wins. He's probably the hottest prospect right now at 125 pounds. So, see how that one plays out. Some other fights on here. Jeff Neal, Mike Perry. That's probably that one's really low down on the card. Almost looks like a prelim bout. It's the second one up from the bottom here on Fight Metric. And, that's the Hands of Steel Neal versus, Florida man Mike Perry is going to be one hell of a contest at welterweight. I'm really looking forward to that one. And Ian Heinch, he's fighting as well. He's fighting Omari Akhmedov, and I don't know anything much about Akhmedov, but I do like Ian Heinch a lot. He has a great history to him, and I think he's a really interesting fighter, even though he lost his last contest to Derek Brunson. It would be interesting to watch him fight again for sure. All right, so a little bit of housekeeping. At this point, I haven't really been stressing it as much, but, follow the Fighting Spirit podcast on YouTube. Subscribe to the show. Give us some likes. Write into the show. Give me a little bit of a mailbag. Keep it going. That's the way to really keep me engaged here, is to give me a little bit of feedback. I do appreciate it. Even if you don't, if you're listening, but you say, I really don't like you. Hell, let me know. Let me know why you don't like me. It's certainly interesting to hear. And who knows? Maybe you're right. Maybe I need to change it up a little. Maybe you have some kind of wisdom that I'm not thinking about, and I will make a small adjustment. Anyways, let's get past that, and let's close things out. So I will speak to you again on Monday or Tuesday. It really depends. I've been doing a lot of Monday shows. Kind of Tuesday, the way my schedule played out over the summer, is carried forward into the fall and upcoming winter, I think. So I'm thinking, Monday is going to be our new release window, and it might be Tuesday morning. I might record it Monday night and release it, but Monday, Tuesday is, I think, a solid spot to release the show, and it'll be coming at you in a few more days. So until I speak with you again, happy fight picking.